Hello! Hope everyone's having a wonderful Friday Eve so far. Well, I like to think I am, of course. Thank you everyone for joining here today. I appreciate it, as all things. Ah, what a day, in fact. I hope everyone has been having a pretty good week so far. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so got that going for us. That's good. Hmm. All right. Huh. Huh. Oh, okay. Yeah, so much for that. Yeah, I guess I was just looking at a thing for a second. Hmm, that's weird. I'm not seeing a chat showing up on mine so far. That's concerning. Okay, well, if it's not showing up on my stream, like the visuals, I gotta look into that for next time for obvious reasons. But, so I'll just I'm gonna workshop that. I'm gonna workshop. I will still be checking, comments that you do in fact make. Hmm, I'm not usually this nervous. Eh, it is what it is. Anyway, thank you, LC Rocker 64. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. That's a cool name. All right. Well, today we are going to go over, well, we're going to go over gaslighting, the manipulation tactic, how to recognize, counter, and recover from being gaslit. So I only kind of want to talk about this topic just because I've been hearing a lot about it or experiencing it, observing it a lot. And it's kind of annoying me. Oh, it's kind of irritating because it keeps seeing manipulation of good people, and mm, I just feel bad. I really do. I feel bad, and because you see it, you know that whoever's doing the manipulation is a piece of scum. You know they're bad. I'm pretty sure they know what they're doing at this point, or they know what they want and they're just doing any tactic to get what they want. So, yeah, they know very damn well what kind of outcome they want. And I am just kind of annoyed with all that. Yep. Yep. So yeah, that's one reason why I wanted to just briefly touch on it. So again, yeah, we're gonna be breaking down exactly what gaslighting is, the tactics used to pull it off, how to recognize it in real time, because I'm not just going to talk about media gaslighting, but relationship gaslighting. And sometimes in those conversations, those arguments, you don't really know if you are being gaslit in the moment. Which is also why I'm going to go over some steps that you can take to protect yourself and reclaim your sense of reality. We're going to be doing a lot of reality talk here. Well, not a reality game show or anything of that nature, but close enough. Okay. As usual, each segment is, everything is stretched out into segments, and I will read comments during various intervals and will address them as soon as I am able to. Thank you all again for stopping by and enjoying. Let's get to it. It always starts with the first slide, you know. Okay. What gaslighting really is. Yes, what is gaslighting? Really? Really? Yeah, okay, that's just dumb for me to say over and over again. Okay, definition and why it works. Well, the thing I really want to get across is gaslighting is emotional manipulation that makes you doubt your own mind, your sense of self. It affects your memory, perception, even your sanity. And it's not always obvious and in your face. In fact, it works best when it's slow and subtle, quiet in the shadows where it does not reveal itself to you. That's the whole point. It's sneaky manipulation. First, it plants seeds of self doubt, and then it chips away at your confidence. And the more isolated you become from outside perspectives like friends and family that are trusted initially by you, well, then you become more dependent on the manipulator's version of reality. That's when you have control, okay? Well, wait a minute. It is in that moment that's when the manipulator has control. It's not because they convinced you, but because they made you stop trusting yourself. I mean, how can you trust the world when you cannot even trust what goes on in your own mind? Hmm. I'm getting med school flashbacks right here where I wasn't trusting nothing. Oh. Yeah, you study a textbook, you study all the notes, you listen to the professor, and they're just like, oh, it's not going to be on the exam. This isn't going to be there. Oh, here's the answer to it. And yeah, that does not play out well. Oh my God. Anyway, learn to trust yourself. Trust that gut instinct. That is the point. Where it shows up, obviously, because, well, in three things it shows up. In three things, gaslighting shows up. Gaslighting, it isn't just something that happens behind closed doors, okay? You'll see it in relationships when disagreements turn into battles over what even happened that led to the argument. You can also see this on social media as it shows up when people reframe their posts after backlash or they get a wave of criticism as people being, well, hmm, huh. Wow, I kind of lost myself there for a second. You can also see this on social media. Usually, when someone makes some sort of post, then they try reframing it after they receive so much backlash from people. And then they simply dismiss those criticisms as overreacting. You know? Such people think you're. Uh, they try to save face by saying that their backlash is only caused by a toxic fandom. They're overly sensitive. Don't listen to them, people. I'm still a credible source. Trying to save face. That's what they try to do. And lastly, you can see this in mainstream media. Oh, it's a classic. You'll notice it in you'll notice that they do selective framing, or they have sudden narrative pivots that make you wonder if you are remembering a story or news incorrectly. The point is, you have different platforms using the same tactic to rewrite reality until you, dear viewer, start questioning your own reality. At that moment, they have claimed the narrative. However, you have the power to stop them. The power is in you. I'm trying to be positive in all this because really, this is easy to, once you know what to look for, you can figure this out. You can break free from the illusion. It will be painful, but you can do it. Questions, comments, and or concerns? Yes. Drinking some water. Okay. Hmm. All right. All right then. Oof. Nope. Oh, okay. Well, that was easy. Hmm. Someone said nope, actually. Misspelling. Can't. For a second, I thought that said mope. What the hell? It says nope. Yeah, I'm not gonna get hell bent on that. That's not. Ugh. Moving on. Common gaslighting tactics. Oh crap. Yes. Whoa. I think I spaced out there for a second. Common gaslighting tactics. Okay. There we are. I think it's All right. Gaslighting doesn't look the same everywhere. But the core tricks, they repeat themselves and you can notice the patterns. In relationships, it's often blunt. You'll see flat out denial where they say things like that never happened. There's also the emotional invalidation where they call you too sensitive, or they go straight to the personal attacks, attacking your character by calling you crazy or you don't know what you're talking about. You're stupid. All to try to avoid the underlying issue. Of course, they can even, in relationships, they can also try to shame, insult, and guilt you too, all for the sake of their need to be right. The media is a little bit different than relationships. In media, it's more polished, classier in fact, but it's just as manipulative. You know, they do conspiracy labels, label something as a conspiracy to shut down discussion in its entirety. Claim a clip is out of context with no proof, you know, not providing any missing information, just saying it's out of context, it doesn't matter. Or the media just straight up pretends that something something new has always been this way, rewriting history. Hey, that thing that you're concerned about, that was always happening. Yes. Relationships and media. Different packaging, it's the same move. Shifting reality so you're the one that is on the defensive. So be prepared. The flip pattern. One of the clearest gaslighting patterns is what I call the flip. It begins with denial. You know, the manipulator telling you that it's not happening. That's not real. It's not really happening. The issue you're concerned with, they're just saying that the issue you're concerned with isn't real. Then they move on to, well, and then afterwards, when undeniable evidence appears, their story changes to admission. But where they actually say that it's a good thing, that issue, that concern you had, it's happening, sure, but it's a good thing that it's happening. And then finally, it shifts to justification and normalization, where they continue to lie to your face, claiming that, well, that issue you're so concerned with, it's always been this way. Rewriting history. The danger in all this is how gradual the change feels. Each step, it seems small and insignificant, but the end result is a total rewrite of reality. So, if you track the conversations over time, this flip pattern, it becomes easy to spot and call out. And I make you bet it can be turned into a game. A word of warning. If you're not paying attention, you may end up accepting the new version of reality without even without even realizing it. So be careful when dealing with gaslighters. Questions, comments, concerns. Favorite color? I don't know. Green. Blue. Magenta. Damn, magenta's good. Nah, I'm gonna go with green. All right. All right. I think that just about does it. Okay. Next part, how to recognize gaslighting in the moment. Why am I putting a Z on that? In the moment. I'm just gonna roll with that. Red flags and patterns to watch out for. All right. Okay. So, uh, yeah, gaslighting. It can be identified in real time. You know, by watching for specific shifts in how the conversation unfolds. You know, if the topic constantly shifts mid conversation, be aware that that is a sign that the manipulator is steering you away from resolving the actual issue, and they are trying to control the narrative. Just the same, if you catch yourself defending your sanity, your your perception of self, instead, if you find yourself defending your sanity or your person instead of addressing the original point of the conversation, be aware now that the focus has been flipped onto you. You are now on the defensive, and they have steered you off the true path, as it were. And finally, if you begin to notice contradictions piling up over time, the manipulator is moving the goalposts, or they dodge direct questions, usually yes or no. Be aware that you are no longer in a genuine discussion. Instead, you're caught up in a control tactic by someone who wishes to fool you. Oh, and that boils my goo. It really does. Oh, how it boils my goo. Yeah, yep, that's horrible. I don't like it. Not at all. Boy, that cheese. Actually, it's a good thing that manipulators talk. One of the simplest ways to spot gaslighting in action is to simply let the manipulator talk without interruption. Ask a open-ended question, and then please resist the urge to fill the silence. It's going to be tough, but resist the urge to fill that silence, because the truth doesn't fear pause. Okay? The truth answers simply and directly. Manipulation, however, it struggles with dead air. The silence creates a psychological pressure by breaking the normal conversation rhythm, often making the manipulator feel uncomfortable enough to fill the gap, the void. They'll often rush to explain or over-explain, and sometimes contradict themselves without you really even needing to lift a finger. The lesson in all that is, the lesson in letting them talk is, the less you push, the less you try to interrogate, the more likely that the manipulator will crack, and their version of events will show up as false, fake. Congratulations! You have avoided gaslighting. So seriously, resist that urge. Questions, comments, concerns, all that good stuff. Oh, wow, I was mute there for a second. God damn it. Well, I had a pretty good line right there. Too bad no one will ever hear it again. It was the smartest thing I ever said, and no one was around to hear it. Just go to show. Don't click the mute button, people. It does not do you any favors. Anyway, moving on to the counter. Countering gaslighting. This is the good stuff. Because I'm pretty sure by now we all know what gaslighting actually is. And now begins our counterattack against it. Countering gaslighting anywhere. The first rule of countering gaslighting: don't get pulled into proving your sanity. Wait, I don't think I said that right. The first rule of countering gaslighting is don't get pulled into proving your sanity. It's a trap you can't win. The main idea is to stay calm and neutral in tone. And the idea is to stay calm, collective, and neutral, as it makes it harder for the manipulator to paint you as emotional or irrational. Anchor the conversation to your own memory, say things like, that's not how I experienced it, and they'll try and tell you, don't believe your lying eyes. Use your memories. Clearly state your perspective and refuse to let the manipulator replace your version of reality with their falsehoods, with their false one. Now, when it comes to factual disputes, you will want to cross-check facts, use credible sources, save original statements, so that way you can revisit the facts at your leisure. If the manipulator moves the goalpost or becomes very vague with their answers to you, without providing much evidence, pause the drift and ask for clear, direct answers. Always bring the discussion back to the original point. Repeat your point again to prevent diversion from the real issue. Because everything the manipulator is doing is simply to distract you from the main point, shifting the focus to something else. More often than not, they're going to try to shift it to your character. But be warned, that is a trap. In actuality, boundaries and disengagement. Sometimes the smartest counter to gaslighting, it really isn't it's not crafting a sharp or quippy argument. Like the ones you see on social media with all the famous the famous viral all the speakers out there who know their facts like the back of their hands, who pull out, they know facts, they pull facts out of their butt, they talk really fast, and they got all the gotchas. That's their job. That is something that they are just good at. They know what they're doing. Unfortunately, most of us are not like that, me included. Honestly, I would not be able to keep up in such debates. Yeah, the world goes a little too fast for me. Which is why the best thing for us to do when being gaslit is refusing to stay in the conversation at all. Gaslighting thrives in circular debates that end up sapping your strength and erode your confidence. So don't be afraid to step back and just end the conversation on your own terms. Odds are the person you are debating is actually receiving a dopamine boost, as they're getting the dopamine boost from your reaction that you are providing them. They are eliciting a reaction and it makes them feel a certain way. They are expecting you to react in a certain pattern, thus supplying them with a dopamine boost. So all you need to do is simply do something they would not expect. Walk away from the conversation and you will piss them off. So, when you find yourself in these debates, your first priority is protecting your mental footing and not forcing the other person to admit they're wrong. As with most debates, you are not trying to win it. You're really, the way I think of it is, you're just trying not to lose. No one actually ever wins debates because you're more unlikely to change the other person's perspective. Instead, if you're trying to make a difference in third parties that are watching you debating and changing their minds instead. The second you step into an argument and you think, I'm gonna win this, you have already lost, I'm afraid. Arguments are not meant to be won. Arguments are not meant to be won, simply not to lose. And if you find yourself in these if you find yourself having the same argument, having this pattern repeat itself over and over again, I want you to take that as a clear sign to set stronger boundaries with such a person. Limit your exposure or seriously reconsider whether such a person or a media source has a place in your life. Sometimes reevaluation is a good thing. And sometimes it's nice to get another sometimes it's really nice to get another perspective. And I'm trying not to get caught in these loops. Mental health is very important. What to do if you've been gaslit? Well, we've talked about what it is, where you find it, and how to counter it. So let's get into what to do if you've been gaslit. Awareness is critical. Well, action plan after gaslighting, okay? You have a game plan now. We're going to talk about the game plan. As awareness is critical, but action is what stops the damage. Once you realize you've been gaslit, the first step is to acknowledge it. Give it a name. Name it for what it is, and then drop the self-blame. Stop blaming yourself, as you're not overreacting, okay? You're reacting to manipulation, which is totally valid. You might even be experiencing cognitive dissonance distress. That is physical pain. That is the physical pain of rejecting a false reality and processing conflicting truths. I'm not joking. Your brain actually starts hurting. The pain comes from rapid neural rewiring as old connections weaken and new ones begin to form. This causes headaches and pressure in the brain. Seriously, deprogramming actually hurts. The truth actually hurts people. You know? After calming down, get your facts straight. Write down what happened, save all the texts, screenshots, whatever helps you keep the truth clear in your own mind. You gotta trust yourself. Trust the gut. Check in with someone you trust who's outside the situation, as well. Their perspective is gold when yours has been under attack and, well, corrupted. For long-term solutions, it's best to look into setting boundaries, limiting contact with people who gaslight repeatedly. Those are toxic individuals or media outlets. And try to rebuild the trust you have in your own judgment. As always, trust yourself. Best advice I can give, really. That and just walking away from the toxic people's conversation. Key takeaways. We are wrapping up here now, people. All right, so gaslighting only has power. It only works if you accept the gaslighting only works if you accept the manipulator's version of reality instead of your own. Okay? I want you to protect your perception. All right? It's not just a skill in D&D that you roll for. It's real. Perception is your mental foundation. Verify facts so you're not relying on someone else's filtered truth. And most importantly, refuse to get trapped in the endless loop of defending yourself to someone who is literally committed to misunderstanding you, who literally just wants to insult you, belittle you, shame you, guilt you into doing what they want, which is to live in their misguided reality. All right? If you do all these, if you refuse the loop, you protect your perception, you know your facts, well, you have everything you need to stop gaslighting from controlling your life, your personal story. Take that as you will with a grain of salt. Questions, comments, and or concerns. I know this was a little bit quicker than the other ones, but yeah, I was doing a lot of traveling earlier this week, and it kind of got away from the day. Kind of got away from me. Oh boy, is my face red right there. Of course, I am also reconsidering some extra format changes. Well, in terms of, how I'm planning on future structuring of content, how to really further go about it. And, I guess I'm also taking a little bit more of my own advice. Sometimes you got to go back to the basics. You got to practice you have to practice what you preach. I will do cold showers. I will not go back into that cold plunge. I will tell you that much. I am not going back into that cold plunge. I turned into a freaking ice cube. Literally, an ice cube. I will do cold showers, though. Maybe eventually I can tolerate cold plunge, but not now. Cold showers and saunas, which are actually delightful. And you meet a lot of interesting people in the saunas as well. Just bring your own towel. Most places don't really provide them to you, especially at the gym. And in terms of the future, I do plan on doing a lot more of these presentations, discussions, really. Though I might actually change it up a little bit and take a more character analysis kind of approach, where I'm going to pick some of my favorite characters from various shows or games and, psychology them. Yeah, I don't know if that works. Like, psychology. Did I just make a noun a verb right there? I'm using it as a verb. Jeez. I'm gonna psychology you. Yeah, that could be a thing. We're gonna psychology them. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Yeah. You know what? That's a good idea. Sometimes you just gotta own the stupidity. I know, that was very dumb of me to say, but I'm going with it. We are rolling with it. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining me here today. I appreciate it. And as always, stay gooey, stay classy. I'm pretty sure that's the first time I said that. And I guess I must say, well, like most things in life, the doctor is out. Thank you again for stopping by. Please check out the rest of the channel. for more similar content. We're, well, making new things every day when I can. Wow, this is becoming anticlimactic. I'm going to stop now. Have a great weekend, everybody. Oh yeah, I guess I almost forgot. I do stream also on Twitch as well, but that is for games and more collaborations. As the main point, as my main advice regarding, starting any social media channel or, yeah, being an influencer, stick to a theme. I'm sticking to mental health, motivation, and psychology. Really, I'm evolving as I go through with this, I'm finding myself sticking to what I know and expanding on it, becoming more comfortable in the uncomfortable, if you were watching my last week's stream on comfort and discomfort, which I do highly recommend when you have the time to do so. Until then, thank you again. The doctor is out. That's not working. Hmm. Hmm. Well, that's unfortunate. Why is it not transitioning? Huh. Something just... Well, this is anticlimactic for so many reasons. Hmm. Nope. Okay, well, I guess we're gonna have to end this the old classy way, where we don't transition for some unknown reason. Huh. That is so weird. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna do the old-fashioned way here. Um, hmm.